One North Carolina town promised 7,500 jobs, took over $1 billion in taxpayer incentives, and then delivered almost nothing. And that is not even the weirdest story on this list. North Carolina is the most moved-to state in America right now, and these are the 8 towns everyone is fighting to live in 2026. But every single one of them comes with a catch nobody prints in the brochure. One is the safest, most master-planned town in the entire state, and quietly, possibly the most boring. One is rebuilding thousands of destroyed homes while pouring craft beer for tourists who never stopped coming. One flips from a cozy little lake town into a $2.5 million flex depending on which street you turn down. And one is named after a university that abandoned it back in 1956 and moved 2 hours away. So subscribe now. Consider it cheaper than a down payment, which is honestly the only other way you are getting into some of these places. Let's count it down from number 8. Number 8, Wake Forest. We start in a town with an identity crisis. Wake Forest sits about a half-hour north of downtown Raleigh, all rolling greenways, brand new construction cul-de-sacs, and a walkable historic downtown lined with white church steeples and brick coffee shops. It looks like the cover of a relocation brochure. And here's the joke that locals are tired of explaining. The university called Wake Forest is not in Wake Forest. The school packed up and moved to Winston-Salem back in 1956, roughly 2 hours west, and never came back. So the town kept the name, lost the college, and has been clearing up the confusion at dinner parties ever since. What Wake Forest kept instead was people. A lot of them. The population sits around 62,000, which sounds ordinary until you hear that this is a 336% increase since the year 2000. Read that again. In a single generation, this town more than quadrupled. Tobacco fields became subdivisions, 2-lane country roads became commuter arteries, and the median household income climbed to around $125,000, which tells you exactly who has been moving in. The whole appeal is value. For a triangle address, you can still find a house here in the low 500s, which in this corner of North Carolina now counts as a genuine bargain. Compared to what is coming later on this list, Wake Forest is practically a clearance rack. Good schools, quiet streets, and close enough to the labs and glass towers of Research Triangle Park to keep the paychecks rolling in. And Wake Forest leans into that small-town charm hard. The historic downtown still hosts its Friday night concerts on the White Street lawn. The local shops still know your name. And the town has poured money into greenway trails and parks, specifically to hold on to that walkable, neighborly feel as it explodes in size. It is trying very hard to grow without turning into just another anonymous ring of subdivisions bolted onto Raleigh. Whether it pulls that off is the open question hanging over the whole place. For now, it mostly works. You get the new construction and the good schools, but you also get a downtown that still feels like a town, not a strip mall with delusions. That balance is rarer than it sounds, and it is a big part of why families keep choosing this specific exit off the highway over the dozen other suburbs fighting for the exact same buyers. And now the catch, because every single town on this list has one. That 30-minute commute into Raleigh is a 30-minute commute on a good day. On a bad day, when everyone who moved here for the value tries to leave for work at the exact same time, the traffic on the roads out of Wake Forest gets genuinely ugly. You are not buying a shorter commute. You are buying a bigger house at the end of a longer one. So yeah, not perfect. But for a town that lost its own university and quadrupled anyway, Wake Forest is doing just fine. It is the sensible pick, the one your accountant would circle. Speaking of accountants, our next town was built by them. Sort of. Number 7, Winston-Salem. If Wake Forest is the sensible pick, Winston-Salem is the one that makes you wonder why you were paying so much everywhere else. This is North Carolina's 5th largest city, around 250,000 people, and the median home price sits at roughly $260,000. In a country where the average house now costs well over $400,000, that number makes accountants cry tears of joy. The overall cost of living runs about 10% below the national average. You can actually breathe here. The nickname is the Twin City, and downtown Winston-Salem is a genuinely handsome mix of old brick tobacco warehouses converted into lofts, art galleries, and the innovation quarter where biotech startups now grow in buildings that used to roll cigarettes. Wake Forest University, the one that ran away from the town 2 towns ago, lives here now, along with its massive medical center. There are breweries, a real arts scene, and a food culture that punches far above the price tag. And there is more packed into Winston-Salem than the low prices would ever suggest. This is the home of the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, one of the top conservatories in the country, which means the town is quietly full of dancers, filmmakers, and classical musicians. It hosts one of the biggest film festivals in the Southeast every spring. And here's the detail that sells it. The very first Krispy Kreme donut was sold right here in 1937, and the original shop still lights up its Hot Now sign on a Winston-Salem street corner to this day. So, the Twin City gave the world Camel cigarettes and glazed donuts, which is either the most southern combination imaginable or a slow-motion public health emergency, depending on how you look at it. And no, I'm not making that up. Which brings us to the honest part. Winston-Salem was built on 2 industries that no longer run the show: tobacco and textiles. This was the home of R.J. Reynolds, the empire behind Camel cigarettes, and for most of the 20th century that smoke was the whole economy. Those legacy giants have faded and median incomes here still trail the state and the nation. The city is reinventing itself around medicine and technology, and it is working. But it is a reinvention in progress, not a finished product. If you are a remote worker earning a coastal salary and spending it in a Piedmont city, Winston-Salem is a cheat code. If you need the local job market to carry you, do your homework first. Either way, this is the affordable underdog of the entire list, and it deserves a lot more attention than it gets. By the way, if you are enjoying this and thinking about your own move, do future you a favor and subscribe. This channel does this every single day. Now, from the cheapest town on the list, let's jump to one where a single afternoon can cost you a fortune. Number 6. Pinehurst and Southern Pines. Welcome to the Sandhills, where the entire local personality is golf. Pinehurst is a small village of around 18,000 people. The median age is nearly 54, and it is built around the Pinehurst Resort and its legendary course, Pinehurst No. 2. This is not just any golf course. The United States Golf Association named it an anchor site, which means it is scheduled to host the U.S. Open 4 separate times in 2029, 2035, 2041, and 2047. This town has booked championship golf into the 2040s. That is a level of long-term confidence most marriages cannot match. And Pinehurst No. 2 is only the beginning. The resort alone runs 10 separate golf courses, plus a short course called The Cradle that has become a genuine cult favorite. The whole village was basically invented as a golf destination back in 1895, and it has spent well over a century perfecting exactly one thing. When you drive through Pinehurst, the streets curve gently, the cottages sit tucked behind manicured hedges, and everything is a tasteful, quiet shade of green and white. It feels less like a normal American town and more like a private country club that happens to have permanent residents. For the people who live here, that is not a criticism. That is the entire point. They earned the fairway and they fully intend to enjoy it. Right next door is Southern Pines, the livelier sister town with a real walkable downtown of restaurants and shops, for the times you want to remember that things other than golf exist. Together, they form one of the most desirable retirement destinations in the Southeast. Median household income runs north of $100,000. The pine-lined streets are immaculate. You are 2 hours from the beach and 3 from the Blue Ridge Mountains, and the whole place hums with a quiet, well-funded contentment. Here's where I have to be honest with you. This lifestyle is not cheap, and it is not for everyone. A peak season round at Pinehurst can run you over $450, which is more than some people in this state pay for rent. The housing carries a heavy resort premium, and the culture skews overwhelmingly toward retirees who golf, brunch, and golf again. If you are 26 and looking for nightlife, this is not your town. If you are 60 and looking for the good life on a fairway, you may have just found paradise. Pinehurst is what you move to when the grinding is over and the reward has begun. It earns its spot. Just bring the clubs and the checkbook. Now let's leave the retirees on the green and go somewhere the money is being made right now at an almost unbelievable speed. Number 5. Holly Springs. If you want to watch a town get rich in real time, point your camera at Holly Springs. 20 years ago, this was a sleepy dot on the map, southwest of Raleigh. Today, it is one of the fastest growing places in North Carolina, with a population past 45,000 and a projected job growth rate of nearly 54% over the next decade. That is not a typo. This town's economy is expected to grow by more than half. Here is the engine behind it. Fujifilm Diosynth Biotechnologies is building a campus in Holly Springs that now totals more than $3.2 billion, one of the largest end-to-end biopharmaceutical manufacturing facilities in all of North America. It is targeting 1,400 jobs at an average wage over $109,000 a year. And Fujifilm is not alone. Amgen is building here. Seqirus is building here. The pharmaceutical industry has quietly decided that this specific patch of North Carolina is where the future of medicine gets manufactured, and the town is booming because of it. All that money shows up in the housing. Depending on which month you check, the median home price swings somewhere between the high 500s and nearly $700,000, and it has been climbing fast. Holly Springs has all the shine of a boomtown, gleaming new schools, packed new restaurants, and roads that the infrastructure is straining to keep up with. To understand why the money is pouring in, look at that wage number one more time. An average salary north of $109,000 for manufacturing jobs in a town that barely existed a generation ago. These are not minimum wage positions. These are careers with benefits and long ladders, the kind that actually let a young family buy that $600,000 house and pay it down. That is why the schools here are brand new and bursting, why the youth sports leagues have waiting lists, and why the average age in Holly Springs keeps dropping while the rest of the country gets older. It is a town packed with 30-somethings who followed the biotech gold rush and struck it. The energy is genuinely electric. It just comes with the quiet, nagging awareness that gold rushes historically do not last forever. And that is the catch, hidden inside all this good news. Holly Springs is a company town, just a modern one. Its fortunes are tied almost entirely to a handful of pharmaceutical megaprojects. When biotech is riding high, this town rides with it. If that industry ever catches a cold, the town that grew up around it feels the fever. That is not a prediction, just the nature of building your whole economy on one industry. For now, though, the checks are enormous and the momentum is real. If you can get in while it is still growing, Holly Springs might be the smartest bet on this list. Just know you are betting on biotech. All right, we are officially into the top 5, and this is where things get complicated. Let's trade the labs for the beach. Number 4, Wilmington. Now we hit the coast, and the fantasy sells itself. Wilmington is a port city of over 120,000 people, where a genuinely beautiful historic riverfront district meets actual ocean beaches like Wrightsville and Carolina Beach, just minutes away. This is the town people picture when they daydream about quitting their job and moving somewhere with palm trees. And the Wilmington Metro has been one of the fastest growing in the entire country, so clearly a lot of people are turning that daydream into a moving truck. There is real substance underneath the postcard. Wilmington has a booming film industry, so much so that locals call it Wilmywood, with major productions shooting downtown for decades. You have got the University of North Carolina Wilmington, the busy Port of Wilmington moving cargo, and a tourism economy that keeps the restaurants and beach bars alive. Home prices hover around $400,000, which, for beachfront-adjacent living, is honestly not insane. If any of this scenery looks familiar, there is a reason. Wilmington doubled as the backdrop for shows like Dawson's Creek and One Tree Hill, entire fictional towns built out of these real riverfront streets. The historic district downtown is one of the largest in the whole country, block after block of restored 19th century homes and cobblestone leading down to the water. Out in the river sits the USS North Carolina, a retired World War II battleship-turned-museum that locals treat like a neighborhood landmark. And then there are the beaches, 3 of them within a short drive, each with its own personality, from the laid-back surf energy of Carolina Beach to the polished feel of Wrightsville. On paper, this is close to a perfect place to live, which is exactly why so many people are willing to gamble on the weather to do it. But the ocean gives and the ocean takes. 2 catches here, and they are big ones. First, hurricanes. This is the Carolina coast, and the risk is real and getting worse. If you buy here, you are buying insurance headaches and the occasional very stressful weather forecast along with the sunsets. And second, the traffic. Wilmington sits on a narrow stretch of land served by a limited number of bridges, and when tourist season hits, those bridges become bottlenecks. A 15-minute drive can stretch into 45 minutes of you sitting in a car, staring at a beach you cannot get to. If that sounds bad, keep watching, because paradise always has a price. Still, for a lot of people, the trade is worth it. You put up with the storms and the summer gridlock, and in exchange you get to live somewhere people spend thousands to visit for 1 week a year. Wilmington is the dream, hurricane season included. Quick pause. If these breakdowns are helping you think through your own move, hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel, and it is free, unlike everything else in this video. Now let's get into the top 3 where the towns get prettier and the price tags get scarier. Number 3. Davidson. Here is where you find out what charm actually costs. Davidson is a small college town of around 12,000 people on the northern edge of Lake Norman, just outside Charlotte. And it is arguably the most beautiful town on this entire list. Picture a walkable brick Main Street, independent bookstores, students biking to class, and lake access at Jetton Park, all about 20 minutes from the skyscrapers of uptown Charlotte. It is anchored by Davidson College, an elite liberal arts school so respected that people call it a hidden Ivy. The whole town has that rare quality of feeling both quaint and prestigious at the same time. Median household income here runs somewhere between $128,000 and $142,000, which is your first clue about who lives here. This is where Charlotte's professional class comes to raise families in a town that looks like it was designed for a holiday movie. Davidson College is not just scenery either. It sets the entire rhythm of the town, bringing lectures, concerts, and a certain intellectual seriousness to a place that could easily coast on just being pretty. Wildcats basketball games turn the whole community out. The bookstores are actually good. And the college's famous honor code culture bleeds out into the streets where people genuinely leave their doors unlocked and their bikes unchained on Main Street. It is idyllic in a way that almost feels staged. But that ideal comes with the membership fee, and it is a steep one. The families who live here tend to have been here a while or arrived with the kind of money that makes fitting in effortless. It is warm and welcoming, right up until you actually try to become part of it. And then you look at the home prices and the fantasy gets expensive. The median home price in Davidson runs anywhere from around $577,000 to over $700,000, making it the priciest entry point of any town on Lake Norman by a wide margin. And if you want actual waterfront, the numbers climb past $1 million and keep going up to $2.5 million and beyond. The honest catch here is not just the money, it is the vibe underneath it. One longtime resident described Davidson bluntly as old money and cliquish behind the scenes. It is gorgeous and it is welcoming on the surface, but it is also an established, affluent community with its own social order, and breaking in takes more than a big down payment. Beautiful town. Just know what kind of town it is before you fall for the Main Street. Now, if you thought Davidson was pretty, our next town is on a completely different level, but it comes with the heaviest catch on the entire list. Number 2. Asheville. Asheville might be the most beautiful place anyone lives in North Carolina. Tucked into the Blue Ridge Mountains in the western part of the state, this is a city of around 94,000 people, famous for its craft beer scene, its river arts district, its historic downtown, and the sheer mountain scenery wrapped around all of it. It is a bohemian mountain city that has landed on best places to live lists for years, and for good reason. People fall in love with Asheville, hard. This is a town people plan entire vacations around. On the edge of the city sits the Biltmore Estate, the largest privately owned home in the United States, a 250-room French chateau that a Vanderbilt built back in the 1890s, and that still pulls well over 1 million visitors a year. Downtown is a maze of independent restaurants, record shops, and street buskers, and Asheville has more breweries per capita than almost anywhere in America, which is how it earned the nickname Beer City. It is artsy, it is a little weird, and it wears both proudly. For decades, the pitch was simple. Come for a long weekend, fall in love, and quietly start scrolling real estate listings on the drive back home. Thousands upon thousands of people did exactly that. But we cannot talk about Asheville in 2026 without talking about what happened here. In late September of 2024, Hurricane Helene tore through the region and devastated it. According to Buncombe County officials, Helene damaged more than 9,200 residential units in the county alone. 331 homes were completely destroyed, 609 suffered major damage, and the storm wiped out roughly 7% of the entire local housing stock. This was the worst disaster in the region's modern history, and Asheville is still rebuilding from it right now. That recovery is the whole story of Asheville today. The city is absorbing more than $225 million in additional federal recovery funds. Home prices dipped slightly as the market absorbed the shock, and homes are sitting on the market noticeably longer than they used to. And yet the tourists keep coming, the breweries keep pouring, and people keep moving here anyway because the thing that makes Asheville special did not wash away. The mountains are still standing. The soul of the place survived. So here's the real question with Asheville, and I am not going to pretend it is simple. It is a stunning, one-of-a-kind city with a genuine affordability crisis, low wages relative to those Mountain View home prices, and now a rebuild that will define it for years. It is not a safe, sterile, master-planned bet. It is a real place with real beauty and real scars. For a certain kind of person, that makes it the only town on this list worth considering. Just go in with your eyes open, which brings us to number 1, the exact opposite of Asheville in almost every way. And depending on who you ask, that is either the highest compliment or a quiet insult. Number 1, Cary. If you go by the rankings, and the rankings are basically unanimous, the single best town to live in North Carolina is Cary. Niche ranks it the number 1 place to live in the entire state. U.S. News ranked it number 5 in the whole country on its most recent Best Places to Live list, calling it the top town in North Carolina outright. This is not a hidden gem. This is the reigning, undisputed champion. And when you look at the resume, you understand why. Cary is a city of around 176,000 people in the heart of the Triangle, and it is almost aggressively excellent. The crime rate runs well below the national average, making it one of the safest cities its size in America. It has over 85 miles of greenways and a stunning new $68 million downtown park. The schools are top tier. The median household income sits around $135,000. And the jobs are elite, anchored by SAS Institute, the largest privately held software company on Earth, and Epic Games, the studio behind Fortnite, both headquartered right here. So of course it is expensive. The median home price runs around $630,000, and the cost of living sits roughly 15 to 20% above the national average, almost entirely because of housing. Getting into Cary as a normal earner is genuinely tough. That is catch number 1. And the thing worth understanding about Cary is that the excellence is not an accident. This town has been obsessively planned for decades, with strict development rules that keep the strip malls tasteful, the signage muted, and the tree cover thick. SAS Institute, the software giant at the center of it all, is famous for treating its employees to on-site healthcare, gyms, and one of the best workplace cultures in the country. And a huge chunk of Cary was effectively built around keeping those workers happy. It is also one of the most diverse towns in the state, drawing engineers and researchers from all over the world into the Triangle's tech corridor. The result is a place that runs almost suspiciously well. The parks are spotless, the schools are ranked, and nothing ever seems to break. For an enormous number of people, that is the entire dream. For a certain restless few, it is the opening scene of a horror movie where nothing is wrong, and that is exactly the problem. But catch number 2 is the funny one, and it is the reason we opened this whole video with it. Cary is so clean, so safe, and so perfectly master planned that it has earned a nickname: the containment area for relocated Yankees. So many Northerners moved here for the low crime and the good schools that locals joke the whole town is a holding pen for transplants. And residents themselves will tell you it can feel a little sterile. One reviewer warned, "This is not the place you move to if you want to party and go out. It is calm, it is orderly, it is spotless." And for some people, that is the dream, while for others, it is a beautifully landscaped snooze. Here is the truth about Cary and about this entire list. Cary is number 1 because it is safe, prosperous, and about as well run as an American town gets. Whether that makes it perfect or just a little bit boring is the one thing no ranking can decide for you. Only you can. Zoom out for a second, because the pattern running through all 8 of these towns points at something bigger. North Carolina has quietly become the most moved-to state in the entire country, adding tens of thousands of new residents every single year, and they are not spreading out evenly. They are funneling into these exact places: the safe suburbs, the mountain escapes, the beach cities, the golf villages. That concentrated demand is the invisible force behind every price tag in this video. It is why a modest house in a triangle suburb now costs what a small mansion cost a decade ago, and it is why the longtime locals in half these towns have a slightly haunted look. You are not just choosing a town, you are joining a stampede, and the earlier you get in, the better your seat. And that is the real lesson hiding in all 8 of these towns. Every single one of them, from the biotech boom in Holly Springs to the mountain rebuild in Asheville to the Gulf Empire in Pinehurst, is somebody's paradise and somebody else's deal breaker. The triangle suburbs are winning every ranking in the state, but they are also getting more expensive and more crowded by the month, because the exact things that make these places wonderful are the same things pulling everybody in. North Carolina is not building a handful of perfect towns. It is building a handful of very good ones, very fast, and charging more for them every year. Think about the sheer range we just covered: a $260,000 house in Winston-Salem, or a $2.5 million lakefront flex in Davidson, a retirement fairway in Pinehurst, or a biotech gold rush in Holly Springs, a beach town playing hurricane roulette in Wilmington, or a mountain city rebuilding itself brick by brick in Asheville. And sitting on top of all of it, a suburb so flawless that its single biggest complaint is that it might be too nice. There is no one best town hiding in this list. There is only the best town for you, and the honest truth is that the catch matters just as much as the perk. The people who move somewhere and actually stay happy are the ones who picked their poison on purpose. So if any of these caught your eye, the smartest move is the early one. And while you are thinking it over, subscribe to the channel, because we break down the best places to live in America every single day, and your next hometown might be one video away. I will see you in the next one.